Alright, Chapter 8, Petroleum Storage Tanks, UFC 34603, November 10th, 2017. Um, we are actually on, we should be on Chapter 8. Alright, no, Alright, Chapter 8, Petroleum Storage Tanks. Alright, 8-1. 8-1, Chapter 8, Petroleum Storage Tanks, Chapter 8, Petroleum Storage Tanks, General Information. This chapter includes the information, inspection, maintenance of the petroleum fuel storage tanks associated, equipped for the purpose of maintaining mechanical operational integrity. Commercial codes AP 653 STI SP001 have been used to determine the baseline inspection requirements of the Department of Defense owned petroleum fuel tanks. API 653 has been used in field erected tanks. STI SP001 has been used for the shop fabricated tanks. In some cases, the API 653 and STI SP001 can be applied to field erected tanks. In some cases, API 653 or STI SP001 could be applied to option with the use of either protocol has been provided. After a tank inspection protocol has been set, they should be continued following the inspection protocol unless the change is approved with a military service control point or SME. Contact with the military service with a service control point or SME for the guidance if they ensure for the proper inspection protocol. In some cases, the API 653, the STI SP001 do not directly apply with the type of the petroleum fuel tank installed within the field, then cut or cover tanks in these cases, the requirements of the codes must be adjusted for the actual tank installed with the field with the contact of the military service control point or SME for the guidance. Multiple compartment petroleum fuel tanks are a special case for the shop fabricated tanks, each for the compartment with the multiple cart tanks, but they should be treated as a separate individual tank, even though they may share the components of secondary containment systems. 8.2 Containment Prevention. Petroleum fuel storages tanks are environments where water can promote the microbiological growth and damage to the inner tank surface, so the restrict flow and the damage to downstream components that degrade with the petroleum fuel product stability through water and other debris inherent with the petroleum fuel handling operation. Maintain petroleum fuel tank floating roof seals, vent screens. Integrity critical to the preventing of the additional contamination of the entering of the tanks. While the water typically is removed with the view of the draw off the system, draining directly from the petroleum tank sumps. 8.3 Tank surface coatings. Only the coating of the touch-up repair is performed with the staff paint the personnel with the petroleum fuel tanks. Coating of the repair with the replacement of the entire petroleum fuel tank is usually performed on a contract. Interior coating system of the program with the replacement with 20-year intervals. Exterior with the coating of the may failure with the rapidly due to the weathering microbiological growth. Numerous factors include with the surface penetration can lead with the failure of the coating of the material. If the inspection shows the coating is acceptable condition, life may be extended between 20 years. There's generally no need for the recoat of the interior petroleum tanks use unless the coating has failed. The significant change of the petroleum fuel surface type that's playing with the condition of the internal coatings can only be determined during the out-of-surface internal tank inspections. 831 Exterior tank coating repairs. The external surface of the petroleum storage tanks are protected with the coating of that meet with the requirements of Unified Guidelines spec. Since Section 0997 and 1327 of the exterior coating seal track structures, existing coatings may be protected with the alternative coating system not listed with the Unified Guidelines spec. With the specification question reading, alternative coatings that are encountered into the field should be directed with the military service SME. Maintenance personnel must be determined the existing external coating type of the repairs with the ensure for the proper adhesion, the recommended with the product text surrounding area of the repair with the squaring off of the masking tape. Ensure the area to be repaired is and clean and dried. All of the surface corrosion damage coatings must be removed with the coating of the manufacturer requirements. In addition to the braided intermediate area surrounding repairs via the feather edge of the allow the proper adhesion of the repair coating layers. Remove all the dust particles by the brush or vacuum clean surface with appropriate solvent to prepare the area for the coating system. Application information instructions provided with the Unified Guidelines specifications section 09971327. Exterior coating of the steel structures must be strictly adhered to when using the type of the coating of the system is applied with exterior tanks. Interior tank coating repairs. There are two primary coating systems that are used for the tank of interiors: low VOC epoxy, non-volatile polysulfide coatings that meet the requirements of Unified Guidelines spec 09971315. Low volatile polysulfide intercurioting welded steel petroleum fuel tanks, and 2 components exposed to epoxy coating that meet the requirements of Unified Guidelines Spec 09971317. 3-coat epoxy interior coating of the welding steel petroleum fuel tanks. Existing tanks may be protected. Alternative coating system is not listed in the Unified Guidelines specification. Questions regarding alternative coatings that are encountered in the field should be directed to the military service SME. Low VOC epoxy non-volatile polysulfide interior coating and non-volatile polysulfide interior coating systems are compromised by primary base for the coated topic of the technical material exemption with the contrasted color to allow for the identification applied with the correction coating system with approximately 50 years. Applicable information inspection instruction provided with the Unified Guidelines 09971315 low volatile polysulfide interior coating welding steel petroleum fuel tanks must be strictly adhered to. The type of the coating is applied with the interior of the tanks. 2-component epoxy interior coating. 2-component epoxy interior coating compromised epoxy polyamide primer base coat in accordance with the military detailed 24441-29 epoxy polyamide intermediate top coats according with the military detail 2444131. All primary and intermediate coating materials are supplied by one supplier, applied with the correct with the coating system with less approximately 20 years. Application information instruction provided with the Unified Guidelines Spec 09971317. 3-coat epoxy interior coating welding steel petroleum fuel tanks must be strictly adhered to when the type of the coating is applied with the interior of the tanks. Alright, 8.4 above ground field erected tank. For the majority above ground field erected tank, either the petroleum product for the bill with the prepare ordinance with the API 650, welded steel tanks, oil storage, and API 653 tank inspection, repair, alteration, reconstruction, Department of Defense standard AW 782477. Above ground vertical steel fuel tanks with fixed roofs. Baseline internal inspection must be conducted with above ground field erected tanks before they are placed in service. The baseline inspection must include floor, shell, roof, wall thickness measurements. The initial measurement will be used with the later inspector to monitor and evaluate corrosion rates of specific tanks. Military specification, host nation, local regulations may require additional inspection, increased frequency inspection of field erected tanks. The installation must follow a more stringent UFC military service spec, specific host nation, state, or local regulation. 841 inspection maintenance above ground field erected tanks. Visual inspection evidence short shell deterioration signs of the settlement corrosion condition of tank foundation coating of the coating and condition for the coating installation system. Appurtenances inspection must include with all the components equipment located inside of the containment area of such as the piping support containment valves, product saver tanks, install items not noted during the inspection documented. Follow up of the action with the authorized inspector. Appendix F. See field erected tank monthly inspection checklist monthly. Visually inspect the chimney of the ring wall sealant with a seal that should be made within working order to prevent corrosion with the underside of the tank bottom monthly. Visually inspect the exterior of the tank with a corrosion with irregularities such as fittings of the setting, tilting settings, or the settling of the outer roundness that give the special attention seams, anchor bolts. Visual inspection must include the components equipment located inside of the tank containment areas such as the piping and piping support, containment valve, the product saver tanks, and retaining records and inspection reports up to 5 years. Appendix 5 F is field erected tank annual inspection checklist annually. Alright, perform formal surface external inspection for the tank in accordance with the API 653 STI SP001 with the evaluated tank conditions that may affect the operation and integrity of the storage tank, including minimum shelf thickness and measurement. The inspection must be performed and applicable to certified the inspector. Inspection must include all of the components equipment located within inside the tank containment area, such as the piping, pipe support, containment valve, product saver tank. The frequency every 5 years required. Appropriately certified with the tank specifier API 653 STP001 inspection report. Perform audits for the API 653 STSP001 inspection. Evaluate the tank conditions that may affect the operational integrity of the tank floor, shell, roof, and the floating roof or pan. API 653 STI SP001 provides a checklist to be used as part of the assessment, but the inspector must be performed with appropriate with the API 653 STI SP001 inspector. Inspection must include the components of the located inside of the tank containment, such as the area of the piping support, containment valve, the product saver tanks. Frequency every 10 years recommended and appropriately with the certified tank inspector previously with the API 653 STI SP001 inspection record. Alright, geodesic dome roofs. Geodesic roofs are above ground vertical petroleum fuel storage tanks constructed in aluminum, either welded or bolted vertical walls of the petroleum tank, wine girder, or self-supporting. Geodomestic roofs are typically installed with the petroleum fuel tanks originally constructed with external floating roofs to reduce infiltration rainwater of the petroleum fuel tank to protect the floating roof, seals and internal coatings with the effect of the weather and help reduce emissions of the fuel and odors. Inspection repairs. Geodesic dome roofs roof. The internal geodesic inspections are most effective when the petroleum fuel in the tank is near a high level. The floating roof is close to the highest position. Access for the internal floating roof is considered the permanent required confined space. Thereafter, all military service safety procedures must be followed. Conduct external inspection. Geodesic dome roof where accessible corrosion, tank shell, bolts, gasket connection, visible signs of corrosion, apparent roof leaks, clogging, deterioration, vent screens, and damage to the structure of the panels and monthly. Or conduct internal inspection. Domestic dome roof, the floating roof of the accessible corrosion, tank shell with the bolts of the gasket connection, visible signs of the corrosion, apparent roof leaks and clogging, deterioration, vent screens, damage to the structure of the panels, frequency annually. Foundation field erected petroleum fuel tanks generally constructed with a concrete ring wall foundation. Some cases are constructed with a concrete mat foundation. Typically, the tank is elevated with the tank containment floor is sloped away from the tank shell. Inspection repair foundation. Inspect a visible component of the tank foundation sign with erosion due to the heavy rains wash down as such a repair is necessary. Also in tank foundation shows structural cracks, signs of settlement, spalling, general deterioration. Remove the vegetation from around the tank foundation monthly. 8.5. Shop fabricated tanks. Most common type of the shop fabricated tank with petroleum fuel storage are horizontal cylindrical tanks. However, there are vertical and rectangular tanks. Shop fabricated tanks can be constructed with integral secondary containment, fire protection. The most common tanks of the fuel service is described in the section that follow the baseline. Internal inspection must be conducted with the shop fabricated tanks before they are placed in service. The baseline inspection must include the floor, shell, roof, end of the wall thickness measurement applicable to the specific tank type of the tank. Initial measurements will be made by later inspector monitoring and evaluating corrosion rates of specific tanks. Military service of the host nation, state, local regulations may be additional inspection by increased frequency or inspections with shop fabricated tanks. The installation must follow the more stringent UFC military service spec for the host nation and state, local regulations. Alright, above ground fabricated tanks. UFC 34601 design petroleum fuel facility, section 84, limited shop fabricated tank size diameter to 12 feet, maximum capacity 50,000 gallons. Above ground single wall tanks are designed and constructed to meet the requirements of UL 142 steel above ground tanks, flammable combustible liquids. Double wall tanks are designed with the UL 142 compatible inner tank. The fire resistant double wall tanks are equipped with the outer tank of the design of UL 2080. The standard fire resistant tank, flammable combustible liquid requirement, protected double wall thickness, equipped with the outer tank of the design with the UL 2085. Protected above ground tanks, flammable combustible liquid requirements. Additional consideration guidance given with the specified National Fire Protection Association 30 flammable combustible liquid code, the National Fire Protection Association 35A code of motor fuel dispensing facilities, repair gear and garages should be consulted with the requirement to tank the dispensing fuel for the ground vehicles and watercraft. In general inspection, follow the categories internal with the first subsequent, external, periodic, or formal and least tests that use more frequent inspection, testing and specify the military service spec directives, host nation, state, local regulations. Certified inspector resolve the previous inspection testing protocol defined in STSP-001 standard inspection above ground storage tanks based on classification system at table 8.1 and 8.2 may be used to determine inspection testing requirements above ground shop fabricated tanks. Inspection protocols must be assigned with the military spec for the service control point or SME where the multiple inspection protocols may be applied with the one selected initial inspection should not be changed with either prior or coordination with the military service spec of the service control point or SME. The prior inspection here the key the subsequent inspection, being able to identify issue each of the tank inspection protocols should be clearly documented and the base of the future projected inspection. When applying the STSP-001, formal testing schedule select the internal inspection option with the tank of the physically able to be entered, and otherwise select the leak test option on table 8.2. Only tanks equipped with a man weight at least 18 inches wide should be entered. Full for multiple compartment tank of the tank size equivalent with the individual compartment that is being inspected. This shows 8.1 and then 8.2. 8.5.1.1 Inspection maintenance above ground shop fabricated steel tank inspection. Monthly external inspection, visual inspection for the exterior signs of the corrosion, decoding, and deterioration. Visually inspect the well of the tank of the salve, the connection, tank support, tanker anchors, foundation, anchor bolts, over valves and alarms, normal vents, emergency vents, leaking detection, probe water, petroleum accumulation for the interstice, do double wall tank leak valves, fittings of the components, spill, contamination system release, prevention barrier, leak valves and fittings. Components must be repaired immediately remove the surface isolated, prevent further discharges. Irregularities will be assessed with the priority with the repaired as soon as possible. Recording required depending on the nature of the defect and The inspection checklist frequency monthly. In external inspection, more detailed the examination tank of the prudencies must be performed on an annual basis. See Appendix E with the example of the SCI-SP001 standard in the annual inspection checklist. Annual. Formal external inspection. Formal external inspection defined SGI SP001 standard inspection of above ground storage tanks must be conducted with the certified SGI SP001 inspector established for the surface control point based on the tank size category listed in Table 8.1.8.2. Formal internal inspection identified as 1 in Table 8.2. Formal internal inspection of the SGI SP001 standard inspection of the above ground storage tank must be performed and certified by the SGI SP001 inspector established for the surface control point based on the tank size category listed in 8.1.8.2. Leak test identified as an L in Table 8.2, with the leak test is defined as STI SP001 standard inspection above ground storage tank must be performed in accordance with the STI SP001 standard inspection above ground storage tank frequency as surface control point based on tank size category listed in 8.1 and 8.2. 852 self-diking volted tank. Self-diking tanks designed with the UL-142 steel above ground tanks flammable with combustible liquids can be either single to double the wall construction or designed to hit with a fabricated steel containment dike. The dike is designed to contain small spills and entire tank contents event with a major leak of the rupture of the tanks are usually range from 250 to 12,000 gallons, but can be larger than the National Fire Protection Association 30 flammable combustible liquid and the National Fire Protection Association 38 code of the motor fuel dispensing facilities. Repair garages have specific criteria that must meet before using the type of the tank. Secondary containment of dikes may be only with the opening during the purpose of the performed in accordance with the installation service control spill prevention control countermeasure plan. Minimum secondary containment of drain valves will be monitored during draining and closing the locked after use. Inspection maintenance of self-diking vaulted tanks. Inspection and maintenance self-diking vaulted tanks inspection. Monthly external inspection, visual inspection for the exterior sign with the corrosion coating, the deterioration. Visually inspected welds, seeing the tank itself with the connection, tank support, tank anchored foundation, anchor bolts overfilled with alarms, normal vents, emergency vents, leaks detection probe with water, petroleum accumulation and contamination, air leak valves, feeding the components, leaking valve fittings. Components must be repaired immediately removed with the surface isolated with the prevent with further discharge irregularities, missing handle with the bolts, nuts, and screens will be assessed for the priority repair with as possible, required depending on the nature of the defect. Appendix E with example of the STI SP001 standard monthly inspection. Annual internal inspection in more detail with the examination of the tank of the prudencies more performed annually. The example Appendix E with the example of the STI SP001 standard annual inspection frequency is to be done annually. Formal and external inspection. A formal external inspection for the SCI SP001 standard inspection of the above ground storage tank must be conducted with a certified SCI SP001 inspector frequency as the surface control point based on the tank side of the category listed in the table 8.1.8.2. Formal internal inspection identified in 1 table 8.2 with the formal internal inspection defined in SCI SP001 standard inspection above ground tank must be performed and certified by the SCI SP001 inspector frequency established the surface control point based on the tank size category listed in the 8.1 and 8.2 tables. Leak test identified in L in Table 8.2 with the leak test is defined with the SCI SP001 standard inspection above ground storage tank must be performed in accordance with the SCI SP001 standard inspection above ground storage tank. Frequency is established for the surface control point with the tank side within category listed in 8 tables 8.1 and 8.2. Rectangular concrete encased tanks. Concrete encased tanks for the construction within accordance with the UL 2085 standard with the protected with above ground tank flammable combustible liquids. Tank design as integral secondary containment form with a petroleum resistant plastic sheet encased with a concrete. Concrete surface explode with the exterior of the tank with the opposed with the steel shell. The tanks may maintained with the inspected with a similar manner with double the wall protected steel tanks and informal testing primary interior tank. Intersites must be conducted in accordance with the manufacturer's inspection. Inspection maintenance for the concrete encased tanks inspection. Monthly external inspection identified in SP in the table 8.2. Visual inspection tank of the support anchor, the anchor bolts, overfill valve, alarms, normal vent, emergency vent, leaking valve fittings, other components of addition with exterior concrete must be visually inspected for the cracking, degradation, excessive calcareous deposit signs of the damage, leaking of the valves, fittings of the components must be repaired immediately, isolated with the prevent further damage, discharge. Any other deficiencies or irregularities notes must be repaired as soon as possible, depending on the nature of the defect. Appendix E is example of the SCI SP001 standard monthly inspection checklist. and an external inspection identified as P in the Table A2. More detailed examination tank and appurtenancies must be performed annually based, for example, Appendix E, example of SC SP001 standard inspection checklist. Formal external inspection identified as E in Table A2. For the formal external inspection must be conducted certified by the STI SP001 inspector. Establish surface control point based on the tank size category listed in A1 and A2. Formal interior inspection identified as I1 in the Table A2. The modified formula internal, or I in Table A2, but the more modified formal internal inspection defined manufacturer instruction the SEI SPL 001 standard inspection above ground storage tanks must be performed in concrete in cases of the certified with the SEI SP 001 inspector of the tank interior accessible to frequency surface control point based on the tank size category listed in A1 and A2. Underground shop fabricated tanks. UFC 346001. Design petroleum fuel facilities required tanks to be constructed to meet the requirements of the National Fire Protection Association 30 with the flammable combustible liquid code. If they're required with the National Fire Protection Association 38 code for the motor fuel and the dispensing facility, repair garages, underground steel horizontal cylinder integral storage tanks for construction in accordance with the UL 58 storage underground tank flammable combustible liquids in conform with the environmental requirement of Title 40 CFR 280. Technical standard of the corrective action requirements for the owner and operator for the underground storage, underground fiberglass horizontal cylindrical storage tanks are constructed in accordance with the UL 1316 and glass fiber to reinforced plastic underground storage tanks with petroleum products and alcohols and alcoholic gasoline mixtures also meet the requirements of Title 40 CFR 280 for the technical standards, corrective action requirements for the owners and operator for the underground storage tank. Military service for the host nation, state, local regulations may additional with the inspection increase frequency inspection shop fabricated underground tanks and the installation must follow the more stringent UFC military service and host nation, state, local regulation. 8541 single wall underground shop fabricated tanks. Underground shop fabricated rings for fuel and oil services installed with the replacement for the after April 11, 2016 must be secondarily contained using interstitial monitoring in accordance with the Title 40 CFR 280 Section 43 using existing single wall tank for the having been upgraded and maintained in accordance with Title 40 CFR 280 Section 21. Upgrading existing underground storage tank. The system is allowed to continue in general inspection with the fail in the categories internal, external, monthly, and annual tightness and test unless the frequency inspection testing is specified by the military service directives, the host nation, state, local regulations, certified inspector. As a result, previous inspection testing protocol is defined in Table 8.3 must be determining inspection testing requirements of single-walled underground shop fabricated. Strong consideration should be given them with the placement of single-walled underground tanks for the over 30 years with double-walled tanks equipped with the SEO monitoring of the meet the requirement Title 40 CFR 280 Section 43. It shows Table 8.3 and 85411 inspection maintenance single walled underground shop fabricated tanks. Monthly external inspection is identified in P Table A3 ensures all of the work covered the present with a good condition seated firmly with a corrective tank of inspection gauge ensuring the markings are legible with the stick gauge not warped or broken and set the tank with the water using the ATG with the stick of the gauge for the water finding paste with the remove of the water found within the open tank of the open and inspection tank top consumption sumps ensure that no fuel and water is collected in the sumps check for the remove of the obstruction with the tank fill pipe monthly. Annual external inspection identified as P Table A3. They inspect the electrical connection for the junction box with the underground sump with the access ports of the tank. Ensure the box and the seal of the box continuity with electrical fittings did not corrode. They inspect the submerged turbine pumps as present. Ensure the pumps are in good condition. The pumps are fitting show no signs of the tank of the inspection. Tank top containment sumps of the cracks, holes, budges. Ensure the tank top containment some of the electrical pipe penetrations are intact and then secured for double wall piping of the drain in the top tank with the containment sump. Ensure interstitial space of the piping is opening in the sump with the sensor properly mounted at the bottom of the sump. Ensure the tank top containment sump lid gasket and seals are in good condition. Inspect the road access cover. Ensure the cover is in good condition. All the points are present and handles off lift them. The mechanism the good conditions the applicable inside the concrete and solve the over tank ensure that no significant cracking annually. Tank tightness test is performed in accordance with the Title 40 CFR 280 Section 43 frequency established service control point based on tank size release detection type listed in 8.3 table. Our formal internal inspection identified in the table is in table 183 with the formally modified with the internal inspection form for the SDI SP001 with a standard inspection from the above ground storage tank must be conducted and certified by the SDI SP001 inspector of the interior accessible for the inspector will need to supplement and add an or a portion of the SDI SP001 evaluate the specific concern for the underground tank, check with the tank of the seal settlement, but ensure the tank of the shop slopes towards the water drain and is established a surface control point based on the tank size, relief, the detection type listed in the table 83 recommended with the SDI SP001 certified tank inspector previous inspection report. Testing tank top containment sumps ensure that liquid using vacuum pressure liquid testing according to the Title 40 CFR 280 Section 43 every 3 years. Double walled underground shop fabricated tanks. Underground shop fabricated with fuel oil surface installed with replaced after April 11, 2016 must be secondarily contained using interstellar monitoring in accordance with the Title 40 CFR 280 Section 43. General inspection falls in the categories of internal and external. The monthly annual inspection are used unless more frequently inspection testing is specified with the military service specific directives and host nation state local regulations. Certified inspectors result of the previous inspection. The inspection protocol in table 84 must be used with the determined inspection requirements of double the wall underground shop fabricated tanks. Show the double the wall underground shop fabricated tanks inspection schedule. Alright, inspection maintenance of the double-walled underground shop fabricated tanks. Monthly external inspection of the P table 84 with the tank port with the cover of the present with the good condition seated firmly on the correct with the tank with the inspect with the tank stick gauge. Ensuring the marking with the legible loop with the stick gauge is not warped or broken. With the inspect the tank with the water gauge with the ATG with the stick gauge with the water finding pave with the remove the water from the tank. Open them with the inspect with the tank top with the containment sump with the ensure that no fuel with the water is collected within the sump. Check the remove the obstruction of the tank fuel pipe with the frequency monthly. Annual external inspection with the inspect the electrical connection with the junction box with the underground sumps. Access port with the tank with the entry of the box is sealed with the box is conduit with the electrical fitting with it not corroded. Inspect submerged turbine pump is present. Ensure that the pump is in good condition. The pump fitting show with no signs of the leak. Inspect with the tank top with the containment sump with the cracks and holes and budges. Ensure with the tank top sump electrical and pipe penetrations are intact. With secure for the double wall piping system the drain into the tank top is containment sump with the internal ensure of the interstitial space of the piping is open with the sump with the sensor with the properly mounted at the bottom of the sump. Ensure the tank top of the containment of the sump the gaskets and seals are in good condition. Inspect the road access covers. Ensure coverage of the good condition of all the bolts and present with the handle with the L mechanisms in good condition. Applicable to inspect the concrete installed over the tank. Ensure that there are no significant cracking. Formal internal inspection identified as I in the table 84. Formal modified internal inspection according to the SDI SP00 standard for the inspection above ground storage tank must be conducted with certified with the SDI SP001 inspector interior accessible. The inspector will need with the supplement and or adoptions portion of the SDI SP001 evaluate specific concern for the underground tank. Check with the tank settlement and ensure the tank with the slope toward the water drain. Frequently establish the control point based on the tank size, relief the detection type of the list within table 84 with the recommended by the SDI SP001 certified tank inspector previous inspection report. Testing tank top containment sump to ensure that they are liquid type by use of the vacuum pressure of the liquid testing in accordance with Title 40 CFR 280 with the Section 43 every 3 years. Alright, 8.6 underground field constructed tanks, cut and cover tanks. Your underground field constructed tanks, vertical or horizontal construction, can be constructed welded steel with a welded steel interior with a concrete exterior. Tanks are covered with soil or buried under the ground. The tank design included with the manways that extend with the grade level access for the interior of the tank and inspection. Cleaning proof of the deep well vertical tank turbine pumps are mounted with the top of the tank enclosed with a small pump house, a valve, and tank are gravity fed with the tunnels and tunnels used to access the tanks for the connection with the skin valve with a flexible connection extended with the bottom of the tank is usually equipped with a splash detector for fusion for the tank. It is equipped with a sump pump. Remove the water from the tank of the pressure vacuum vents to the leak of the level indicated for the transmitter level of switches. Baseline internal inspection must be conducted with the underground field constructed with the tank before the place and surface for the baseline inspection must include floor, shell, roof, wall thickness measurement. The initial measurement will be used with the later inspectors to monitor the evaluate corrosion rates of specific tanks. Military service specs of the host nation, state, local regulations may require with additional inspection, increased frequency inspection under the underground field of constructed tanks. Installation must follow the more stringent UFC military service spec of the host nation, state, and local regulation. Inspection maintenance of the underground field constructed tank with the cut and cover tanks. Check the level of the gauge record intertestio monitoring points to determine if the tank is leaking daily. Apply field erected tank monthly internal inspection with the maximum extent possible. Visualize and inspecting of the tank at prudency with the evidence of the leak and shovel the distortion sign with corrosion settlement with accessible locations. Items noted that during the inspection of the documentation follow up and authorized inspector appendix F of the field erected tank monthly inspection checklist monthly. Check with the tank under the stack storage condition of the 24 hours of the existing inventory management to determine the petroleum losses occurring with the leak. The further investigation must conduct in accordance with the military service specification guidelines frequency monthly. Apply erected tank annual tank external inspection with the maximum extent possible visible inspection and prudency with the evidence leak and shell. The distortion sign of the corrosion settlement with the access locations visual inspection pump and equipment involved with the lacking leaks cracking in the concrete walls and floor. Retain record of the inspection report 5 years C appendix F of the field erected to annual inspection checklist annually. Alright, perform a modified outstrip of the API 653 internal inspection value with the tank of the condition may affect the operational integrity of the tank floor, shell comms roof of the certified with the API 653 inspector. API 653 provides a checklist may be used as a part of the assessment. However, the certified API 653 inspector must modify the checklist and incorporate the specific needs for the underground field constructed tank. Frequency every 10 years, the recommended that appropriately with the certified tank inspector previous for the API 653 inspection report. Tank cleaning. Tank cleaning operation detail of the appendix H of the government personnel with the contract utilized with the Unified Guidelines Spec 3301. 5001 cleaning fuel storage tank cleaning requirement tanks appendix H provides minimum standard of safe entry in petroleum tanks. Conducting tank cleanings unless otherwise mandated. Operational concerns from military service directive schedule conduct tank cleanings based on the frequency listed below. After cleaning tanks must be stenciled in accordance with the 881 tank stenciling requirements and frequency. Air Force tank is above 20,000 gallons in capacity every 10 years unless required with the frequently due to the fuel quality issues. Contact the Air Force PET or Air Force Fuel SME. Deviations on schedule change typically accepted based on the technical order 42B11. Air Force tanks 20,000 gallons in capacity under during the full out of the service inspection cycle unless required by frequently due to potential fuel quality issues. Army, Navy, U.S. Marine Corps during out service inspection cycle unless required with more frequently due to potential fuel quality issues. 8.8. Returning service for the after formal out of service for the inspection repair. Reinstall the old valve of the piping of the manhole covering for the new asbestos gas of the material compatible with the product is restored. Gasket thickness must not be less than the thickness of the gasket replaced. Restore entire area with the original condition reconnected at the active cathodic protection system. Limit the fill line with the discharge velocity of the piping with the incoming liquid stream and into the petroleum fuel tank with 3 feet per second until the fill of the pipes emerge either by the other 2 pipe diameters of 2 feet, whichever is left in case the floating roof pan equipped with the observer the 3 feet per second velocity limitation with the roof pan becomes buoyant. For additional information, see the API 2003 protection against ignition arising out of the stack lighting tray of the currents. No, wait 30 minutes after loading and unloading above ground fuel tank before the engaging a tank. Wait at least 18 hours before attempting to entry on the floating roof of the pan after initial fill. After completion of the tank inspection with the cleaning operation, ensure the tank is sensible in accordance with the 881 tank stenciling requirements. Documentation should be provided with the tank of this placement in this back in the service after the formal out of service repairs include a statement signed with the applicable code of the certified tank inspector indicating that the type of tank is suitable for the return and service indicated with the cabin's clarification limitations that would affect the tank operation and air after return of service. Settlements must conclude with the due date for the acceptable formal inspection of internal and external leak test for any of the repairs required prior to those next inspection due dates must meet with the maximum allowable by code collected with the latest inspection repair completion dates are complete with the inspection roof complaint with the applicable code. Include all the required calculation and analysis. Preliminary field reports cannot be substituted with the requirement. A list of repairs intended during the inspection include with the completed repairs of the still pending. The pending repairs must be noted within the due date. Third-party certified calibration strapping charts with the tank in the first place with the certified calibration charts did not previously exist or when the repairs were made would be reasonably expected with the change of the tank's calibration of the fabricated shop tanks manufacturer provided with the calibration charts should should be third-party certification before they can be accepted. A statement signed by the execution agent of the repair contractor custody of the tank of the return to installation items listed above the delivery of the government. Tank stenciling requirements. Tank stenciling should be 0.75 to 1 inch high. Letters that information must be stenciled to the next manhole cover. The above grounds are stenciled on the manhole cover. Tank at the pit wall underground. Following the information must be stenciled. And if known, date of the tank cleaning completed, name of the individual, if applicable, the address for the cleaning, contact information of the contractor, date of the last formal internal inspection, date of the next formal internal inspection. 8-9 tank appurtenancies, floating roof and pans, floating roof and pans rest directly on the petroleum surface, the minimum amount of vapor space, but directly above the petroleum surface of the storing lightweight volatile liquid jet and fuel. Floating roofs, pans, all minimize the water contamination, infiltration, petroleum mitigated fire risk. Floating pans are constructed with steel and aluminum plans, float with a displacement, and are not equipped with large voids. Hollow compartments to help provide buoyancy. Aluminum is used. The design can include the internal honeycomb with a sheet metal. Sheet material with an internal honeycomb included with a small void over the space to give the pan additional buoyancy. Pontoon floating pan can be constructed with steel and aluminum. Pontoon floating pans usually hollow in compartments to provide the buoyancy. Typically, hollow compartments are constructed with a circle the outside diameter of the pontoon float pan, but the compartments of pontoons are individually sealed. Floating roofs installed with the tanks are not equipped with the seal cone type of the roof of the musket. The tank have to be retrofitted with a geodesic domes or steel framed roof that might mitigate water entry for the tank from the open top. Floating roofs are typically constructed with steel, include pontoons for buoyancy of the roof. Are typically equipped with a drain system will allow the rainwater to collect on top of the roof drain of the point outside of the tank. Roof drains and sloping to the center of the sump of the center sub of the tank with a hose, multiple joint pipe extending through the fuel outside of the water draw-off valve. Typically equipped with the internal ladders can be usually accessed at the top of the floating roof pan with the top of the tank. In some cases, the ladders are installed with the roller's angle of the ladder changes as the floating roof pan with the change the elevation. In other cases, the ladders are vertical penetration floating roof pan rubber seal installed with the floating roof pan roof with the closed for the annular space for the ladder with the metal of the floating roof pan. Floating roof and the pans are equipped with the anti-rotation cable and pipes. The anti-rotation devices keep the floating roof pan in position. Evaluation of the floating roof pan can change due to the fuel change levels. All of this, they always prevent the floating roof of the pan with the rotating due to the current produced from the fuel receipt issue operation. Most petroleum fuel tanks are equipped with the gauge well. These wells are used the temperature for the level to measure the depth. The wells are constructed with a vertical pipe with the penetrate the floating roof of the pan. Rubber seal installed with the floating of the roof of the pan closed with the angular space between the gauge level the wells and floating roof of the pan. In some cases, the vertical risers, vertical ladders. Ladders are also equipped with the gauge wells. And this flows the floating roof pan. Your weather shield, hanger bar, curtain seal, envelope, seal, supporting ring, resilient urethane foam, top deck rim, bottom deck bumper. It shows you another picture. Inspection maintenance of the aluminum honeycomb floating tanks. Perform a visual inspection of the fixed roof hatch for the access of the internal floating pans if considered the permit required for the confined space. Therefore, all appropriate safety procedures must be followed with conducting internal inspection. Visually inspect with the guide of the anti-rotation cable the centers of the pan monthly. Visually inspect with the ground cable prior to the attachment and wear of the binding. Frequently monthly. Visually inspect the bulking damage of the pan monthly. Inspect the ground cable with the proper attachment wearing of the binding annually. Inspect the floating roof pan penetration, seals and ladders, still wells and seals ensure that they are in good working condition annually. Clean inspect the perimeter of the tank pan seal with the frequency at the time of service of the internal inspection. Refer to the 8915 floating roof pan vacuum vents for inspection of maintenance requirements of floating pan pressure vacuum vents. Refer to 81916 floating roof pans legs for inspection maintenance requirements of floating roof pan legs. 8912 inspection maintenance steel floating pans. Perform visual inspection fixed roof hatch success of the internal floating pan with the consider of the permit required confined space. Therefore, all the proper safety procedures must be followed when conducting the internal inspection. Visually inspect the pan guide, anti-rotation cable, the pipe in the center pan of the frontly. Visually inspect the pan ground and cable, the proper attachment and wear of the binding for monthly. Visually inspect buckling or damage of the pan monthly. Visually inspect the deterioration, damage, deflection with the rolling ladder if equipped monthly. Inspect the grounding cable with the proper attachment wearing binding annually. Inspect all the floating with the penetration. Seal the gauge well with the seals and this they are in good working condition annually. Inspect the gauge wells with abrasion that might indicate the out of roundness or the upper cleaning annually. Inspect the vertical ladder abrasion that might indicate the out of roundness and the proper centering if equipped annually. Inspect with the damage deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped frequency annually. Cleaning the inspection perimeter of the tank, PAM seals frequency at the time of service the internal inspection. Refer to inspection 8915 floating roof pan and pressure pan vacuum vents for the inspection maintenance requirement of the floating roof and pan pressure vacuum vents. And refer to 8916 floating roof pan and legs for inspection maintenance requirements of floating pan and roof legs. Alright, inspection maintenance of floating pontoon floating pans. Performing visual inspection fixed roof hatch and access to the pontoon floating pans is considered the permit required of the confined space. Therefore, all appropriate safety procedures must be followed before conducting internal inspection. Visually inspect the gate item, the anti-rotation cable of the pipes in the center of the pan with monthly. Visually inspect the ground cables with the proper attachment wiring or binding monthly. Visually inspect the buckling damage of the pan monthly. Visually inspect the damage deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped monthly. Inspection of the pontoon standing leg with the presence of strong vapors annually. Remove the mechanical gauge float cover. Ensure the float is securely fastened with the gauge type with the check of the gauge type with the easy movement annually. Inspect the damage of deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped annually. Inspect the vertical internal ladder with the internal ladder pan seal with abrasion with the may indicate the out of roundness and proper centering if equipped annually. Inspect the gauge well with gauge well pans with the abrasion with the might indicate the out of roundness and proper centering annually. Inspect some steel float pan coatings with the corrosion touch up with the compatible with the coating and if required aluminum pans do not require coatings annually. Cleaning inspection perimeter of the tank of the pan fields at the time of service internal inspection. Refer to section 8915 floating roof pan pressure for the vacuum vents. Inspection maintenance requirements of floating pan pressure vacuum vents. Refer to section 8916 floating roof and the pan lengths for inspection maintenance requirements of the floating pan legs. Alright, inspection maintenance floating roofs that perform visual inspection fixed roof hatch with the active floating roofs is considered the permanent required with the confined space. Therefore, all the appropriate safety procedures must be fitted with the conducting internal inspection. Visual inspect the center primary roof drain systems conform as water-free monthly. Visually inspect the anti-rotation pipe roof and guides for the centering of the roof monthly. Visually inspect the ground cable with the proper attachment and wearing and binding monthly. Visually inspect the buckling and the damage of the roof monthly. Visually inspect the standing of the water of the roof deck monthly. Visually inspect the deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped monthly. Ensure the drip type plug with the place in the roof draining openly annually. Ensure the roof drain is closed. Drain valve is kept with the closed in position after each rain, snowfall when in the open, just long enough to drain the roof line. Tank that may be retrofitted with a geodesic dome metal roof must have roof has floating roof drain is removed. So before opening of the roof drain, ensure the roof drain line has not been removed annually. Inspect the pontoon standing leg with presence of strong vapors annually. Remove the mechanical gauge float cover. Ensure the float and securely fasten gauge tape with the check of the gauge tape for easement annually. Ensure any emergency drain is not blocked in with the debris if equipped annually. Inspect the damage deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped annually. Inspect vertical inspection internal ladder seal with abrasion with it may indicate the out of roundness and proper cleaning if equipped annually. Inspect the gauge well. The gauge well roof will seal with abrasion might indicate the out of roundness and proper cleaning. Centering annually. Inspect the floating of the roof with the coating of the corrosion touch up with the compatible. The coating is required annually. Peach clean and check with the perimeter of the tank of the roof seal frequency at the time of service of the internal inspection. Refer to 8915 floating roof pressure pan vacuum vents. Inspection maintenance requirements floating pressure vacuum vents. Alright, refer to section 8916 floating roof pan legs for inspection maintenance requirements of floating roof legs. Floating roof pan pressure vacuum vents. Floating roof pan pressure vacuum vents are used to relieve the vacuum pressure of floating roof pan legs of the floating roof pan make contact with the tank bottom of the vapor space of the concrete with the surface of the liquid bottom of the floating roof pan with liquid level containing the drop. It continues to drop pressure vacuum vent also relieves the positive pressure of the fluid of the floating roof pan of the rises before the surface of the liquid make contact with the bottom of the floating roof pan or pan. Alright, 89151, inspection maintenance floating roof pan pressure vacuum vents. Inspecting floating roof and pan pressure vacuum vents. Ensure the sheath of the rotating strap of the guides with a good working order and that they pressure vacuum vent is not stuck in seats and instead lightly lift easily off the seat of the receipts. Properly inspect gaskets and wear them to replace the required. Refer to manufacturer operation maintenance manual provided with the floating roof pan. Additional guidance of the servicing pressure vacuum vents frequency at the time of servicing inspection. 8916 floating roof pan and pan legs. Floating roof pan and pan legs of floating roof pan high position for maintenance with 6 foot 3 inches clearance for the bottom of the floating pan of the roof and the tank bottom. The limited position of floating roof of the pan when the fuel is drawn with the ground to approximately 2.5 inches of clearance from the bottom of the floating roof pan. But the pan tank the bottom. The pan or to the tank bottom minimum 6 inches from which of the top of the internal nozzle flange bottom of the floating roof or pan, whichever is higher. Or inspection maintenance floating roof pan and pan legs. Inspect the floating roof pan of the tank of the bottom striker plates wherever the inspection seal with the leg. Penetrate the floating roof pan for leaks. Inspect the leg position. Stop with it. Make sure that you're securely fastened to the legs. Stop the floating roof pan in the low position. Inspect with the leg keep straps to make sure that they are securely fastened to the legs and prevent the legs from falling off through the floating roof over the pan. Inspect threaded keeper caps with a high position locking mechanism. Ensure that they are in proper working order. Securing floating roof pan in high position. Refer to maintenance manual provided with a floating roof pan. Additional guidance for floating roof pan and legs associated hardware at the time of the internal inspection. Alright, 892, secondary tank bottoms. Secondary tank bottoms are installed with a repair original tank bottoms degrade with the secondary tank bottoms installed with 1 foot above the existing tank bottom. In most cases, they installed between the original and secondary bottom. Although in some cases, the new release of the protection barrier is installed between the original and secondary tank bottom. The tanks are equipped with the secondary bottom can be identified with the presence of the second chimney, second chime, and about 1 foot above the original chime of the tank concrete interface. Inspection maintenance secondary tank bottoms. Tank design of the secondary tank bottoms should have the telltale device of the leak detection ports allowed with the monitoring of the tank floor and integrity of the telltale device typically configured with the valve and inspection ports to allow visual monitoring of the liquid that present between the foundation of the tank floor, the presence of the water to indicate the breach of the foundation seals, flooring, and presence of the petroleum where indicate the integrity loss of the tank. Open and checking the telltale valve of the inspection ports to verify the absence of water and petroleum monthly. Or your tank pressure vacuum vents. The pressure vacuum vents allow the escape of the filling of the tank, allows the air to enter the tank is being emptied, drained down in order to keep it away with the damaging with the tank and to keep the flows of the vapor pressure for the evaporating with the tank. Pressure vacuum vents are typically installed with the petroleum fuel storage tank storing petroleum fuels vapor pressure of 0.75 psi. They are not usually installed with the API 650 tanks and floating roofs. Atmospheric vents and type of any size that used can be vary greatly. It shows 8.4 shows the pressure vacuum vent, the shaft, weight arm, and snuffer chain. It shows the sections, weight handle, nuts, pan, A-frame, cover, gasket, guide, seating, seal ring, vacuum pole, side plate, bank, assembly, vertical, inside body, screen, guide position, weight, pressure pallet. Alright, 8931 inspection. Inspection tank pressure vacuum vents on ground shop fabricated tanks. Ensure the tank pressure vent is present with the riser pipe securely supported and vertical monthly. Inspect the valve settings, vent settings. Pressure and vacuum setting of the pressure vacuum vents are usually specified on the vent nameplate with the manufacturer manual of the vent. Clean the pressure vacuum vent with information on the type of the pressure vacuum vent with the procedure of the removal of the cover the hoods and pallet with removal and reinstallation should be found with the manufacturer operational maintenance manual before removing the pallet brush. All accumulation protection screen with the pallet with all surfaces of the valve brush the screen with the inside of the valve so that the dirt and other objects fall out the outer edge. Remove the heavy loading of the weights prior to removing the pallet. Assembly remove the deposit of the foreign matter using reasonable care but not damage the diaphragm and seats annually. Inspection gaskets of the diaphragm pallet stems, stem guide check all the mating surfaces must be free of nicks and cuts and cracks of the deposit of the most inferior with the proper seating tightness of valve of the pallets to ensure that more freely up and down with the full range of the travel annually. 891 emergency vents are installed with the most tanks built with the UL 142 standard steel. The above ground tanks flammable combustible liquids UL 2080 standard fire resistant tank of the flammable combustible liquids UL 2085 standard protected above ground tanks flammable combustible liquids. American Petroleum Institute 650 type of the side of the vent. Either very greatly determined by the wetted surface square feet with the venting of the capacity of cubic feet per hour over the tank. 8941 inspection maintenance emergency vents. Inspect the emergency vents with external damage such as dust, rust, severe pitting of the obstruction of the other equipment piping continuities. Remove the vent with an possible inspection of seals and diaphragms that are cracking, breaking down. Inspect the retaining cables and ensure the fastened vent manway or tank. Inspect the guideways to ensure the emergency vents can function properly. Reseat annually. Verify emergency vents have not been removed. They're removed. The emergency vents should not be replaced for the ATGs, manual sample ports, or level alarms frequency annually. Tanks are equipped with the manways. Emergency vents must be inspected for the appropriate time and length of the number of the bolts and lifting clearance of the manway in accordance with the UL 142 standard steel. Above ground tanks to flammable combustible liquid, section 8 and 9, frequency annually. 895 flame arrestor. Flame arrestors are intended to provide with a positive flame stop to prevent the fire from spreading in the interior storage tank, typically installed with a conjunction with a pressure vacuum vent. Flame arrestors normally utilize the tube bank consisting of the alternate flat and corrugated metal sheet with a solid core-like matter sandwiched between two sections of uniform precision ground face to ensure the tight seal. Inspection maintenance flame arrestor tube banks must be removed and cleaned for the form manner by immersing and improved with the solvent solution, taking care not damage for the tank. Tube bundle gaskets must be inspected and replaced as necessary annually. High-level shutoff valve. High-level shutoff valves are designed to shut off receipts into the tank when a predetermined level is reached. It shows the external high-level shutoff valves. External high-level shutoff valves are installed with the receipt of the piping of the tanks configured with a high-level shutoff valve to close the high alarm level between high and alarm. In most cases, the valve with the hydraulic pressure from the upstream side with the fuel piping connected with the valve open. The valves are equipped with a flexible diaphragm control pivot used to operate with the valve. In other cases, the valves are solenoid operated with the required power to open them. Hydraulic actuated valves are controlled with a separate float valve. The assembly float valves can be installed with a sensing chamber the outside of the tank internally with installed float of the float valve. The buoyant flow of the fuel wise will rise up. They activate the float valve with the fuel reach the predetermined high float level. Our external float valve with the sensor chambers are usually accessible with the stairs and platform installed on the outside of the tank. Internal platforms installed on the manway cover the tank with the nozzle at the top of the tanks. Tubing the inlet side of the hydraulic high-level shutoff valve is inrouted with the float valve at the back of the bolt for the outside of the high-level shutoff valve, and so with the diaphragm of the high-level shutoff valve. When the level of the float is activated, the relief of the hydraulic pressure of the high-level shutoff valve and causes the valve to close. So newer hydraulic high-level shutoff valves are equipped with a solenoid valve that will activate the relief pressure from the diaphragm of the high-level shutoff valve that causes it to close, and the fuel of the tank of the reach for the high level of the solenoid interlock with the high-level alarm. Solenoid features installed with the backup of the primary float valve closing feature. 89611 inspection maintenance external high-level shutoff valve. The active high-level alarm internal solenoid, if equipped, that activates the high-level shutoff valve. Sure, the high-level shutoff valve will close when the solenoid valve is activated quarterly. Isolate the drain of the vent into the external float with the valve chamber equipped with the refill with the manually of the valve storage tank product, saver tank pump, the chain floating chamber to testing float valve. Sure, high-level shutoff valve closes when the float is raised in frequency annually. When lift the manual, it tests levered internal mounted float valve equipped with the internal high-level shutoff valve of the float when the float valve is raised frequency annually. Internal shutoff valve. The internal high-level shutoff valve is installed with the internal fill tube tanks for the internal high-level shutoff valve. With incorporate the float with the closure of the valve when the float rises. In some cases, these valves are included with the bypass valve. The mechanism, the level of the tank reach of the predetermined height, with approximately 90% of the flow to the high-level shutoff valve. The rises and closes of the main valve. The main valve closes at 90% level of the bypass. If the open interlocks allowed approximately 5 gallons to enter in the tank. If the level continues to rise and reaches 95%, level bypass valve will close and prevent additional fuel from entering the tank. Inspection maintenance internal high-level shutoff valve. With inspection testing of the high-level shutoff valve with the floating mechanism counterweights the float rise of the floats to ensure the floating mechanism moving freely, functional properly to close. High-level shutoff valve with the valve is not equipped with the manual test mechanism. The level of the tank must be raised to a high-level shutoff valve set point in order to test the valve and ensure that the valve is installed with the proper height annually. 897 the mechanical tape gauge. The mechanical tape gauge read out the window of the typically mounted with the convenient with the location of the side of the tank of the visual of the tank operator on above ground vertical storage tank gauge readout device typically mounted near the base of the tank serve. The other end of the tape is activated via the stainless steel cable and tape and enclosed with the continuity sheet with the pulleys and either float over the rides of the petroleum fuel source inside of the tank of the weight with the rest directly on the top of the floating roof pan. Now, note whenever attached to the weight with the reset rest on the top of the floating of the roof pan, the petroleum fuel level will not read below the setting of the floating roof pan and the pan legs. Inspection of the maintenance mechanical tape gauge. Visually check the liquid level to indicate that the measurement appears to be accurate daily. Check with the mechanical tank gauge against the automatic electronic tank gauge if installed, or by manually gauge for the tank of the relative accuracy, proper working condition. Consult with the manufacturer, operation, maintenance manual, additional maintenance inspection requirements quarterly. Automatic tank gauges are ATG. Automatic tank gauges are used to measure fuel level of petroleum fuel tanks. And then it shows this your mechanical tape gauge. Mechanical operated tank gauge. The gauge can be installed with the tank of the roof of the side with the tank of the level of the measurement display view of the mechanical dial with a contour built with a gauge head. The incremental perforated tank runs from the gauge head through the conduit with the tank down in the tank of the float attached to the end. Float moves up and down with the petroleum fuel level. The petroleum fuel level of the data electronically transmits the lever of the transmitted fitted with the gauge. The end of the tape should never be attached directly to the floating roof or pan with the type of the installation. Resolve the damage of the gauge head or tape. The existing installation currently attached directly with the floating of the roof pan should be retrofitted, attaching the tape of the weight placed at the top of the floating roof of the pan. Verrecum recommends a 10-pound weight. The Sand Jurors recommends a 6-pound weight. Inspection maintenance of the mechanically operated tape gauge. Refer to the manufacturer operation maintenance with the manually specification maintenance with the procedure schedules associated with the specific model with the mechanical float, tape gauge, and electronic level transmitter. Visually inspect the gauge to ensure that the power is on, but there is no warning of alarm lights of the liquid pressure for the indicator of the tank level. The readings appear accurate daily. Inspect gauge head for build up of the sediment quarterly. Inspection tape for the conduit deformation and inhibit the movement of the tape up and down frequently quarterly. Gauge level accuracy must be checked against the hand dip measurement of the tank of the calibrated is required semi-annually. Inspect float cable through the open manway excess cover to verify with the guide wire with the top 3 of the kinks. Verify the float is buoyant and free of sludge and sediment and build up semi-annually. Inspect the power of the control wires for damage annually. Inspect wire for the determination of the points for the damage and loose connections semi-annually. Lubricate moving parts of the gauge head frequency annually. Magnostrictive probes. Manostrictive probes are 10 gauges that use flows to detect fluid water level in the tank. The gauges do not require stilling well or typically use horizontal tanks. Inspection maintenance magnostrictive probes. For the manufactured operation maintenance manual, specific manual with the procedure schedule with a specific model of the probe electronic level transmitter. Visually inspect with the gauge to ensure the power is on. There are no warning alarm lights and liquid measurement that indicate what the tank level reading appears to be accurate daily. Inspect with the probe assembly with the buildup and sediment quarterly. Inspect the probe assembly with the probe shaft with the deformations inhibit the movements of the probe. The quarterly level of the probe accuracy with it must be checked against the hand dip the measurement of the tank of the calibrated semi-annually. Verify the probe float with the buoyant and free of sludge of the sediment buildup semi-annually. Inspect the power and control wire semi-annually. Inspect the wire connection termination points with the damaged loose connection semi-annually. Alright, your servo gauge. Servo gauges are tank mounted, requiring still welling with the gauge float with the float fuel with the float level down to the tank. Inspection maintenance servo gauge. Number of reference to manufacturer operation of the maintenance manual with the service specification procedure schedule associated with the service specific model servo gauge to the electronic level transmitter. Visually inspect the gauge to ensure the power is on, but there is no warning alarm lights, liquid measurement that indicate the tank level, the reading of the probe apparatus to accurate daily. Inspect the gauge head and build up sediment quarterly. Gauge level of accuracy must be checked against the hand dip measurement of the tank calibrated as required semi-annually. Inspect float gauge for the guide with the opening of the manway and access cover. Verify the guide wire with the top of the free of the kings. Verify the float is buoyant and free of sludge. Sediment build up semi-annually. Inspect the power control wire for for damage semi-annually. Inspect all wire connection, termination point of the damage or loose connection semi-annually. Inspect still welling and ensure that still welling is straight and vertical, no dents if it can be free. Annually lubricating moving parts of the gauge head. 899 level alarms. Alarms can include high, low, and low level alarms on small underground tank for the level of alarms must suspended inside the tank. On field erected vertical alarms, alarm switches are typically mounted with the chambers mounted with the outside of the tank. External mounted alarms. External mounted alarms switch installed with the sensing with the chamber the mounted with the outside of the tank. The manual valve is installed with the sensing chamber tank of the connection point. The bundles are used to isolate the chamber in order to perform the periodic maintenance testing with the switching and increase for the decreasing of the fuel level of the storage tank. Newer installation of the product of the savior of the system pump is configured to supply fuel. The sensing chamber to drain fuel back with the product saver the tank of the facilitate alarming switching test vent valve that also provide the sensing chambers. Inspection maintenance of external mounted level alarms. Testing alarms switches isolating with the chamber of the tank using sensing charging chamber isolation valve. The venting draining of the chamber slowly pour product of the chamber through the funnel over the top of the chamber to test level switch at the specified level setting frequency semi-annually. Internally mounted level alarms. Internal level alarms suspended inside the tank. Inspection maintenance internal mounted alarms. The test alarm switches, activating manual testing lever. If equipped with alarms or not equipped with a manual testing lever, to adjust the lever, adjust the level of fuel by alarm points in order to test the alarm switch. If it is not feasible, adjusting the level of the fuel in the tank to allow the alarm to set. Points, remove the alarm switches for the tank and then test the alarms externally. Reinstall the alarm switch and test once, and test is complete. Test is complete. Are your product saver tanks? Product saver tanks, you either remove the water of the tank at the bottom, return usable fuel back and to the tank. The product saver tank consists of a 55-gallon tank. Come down to the bottom, remove the top of the tank, included with a cycle life of the density above the monitoring of the fuel with the water interface. The tank is equipped with a water draw-off connection, either with the electrical pump, hand pump, the returnable usable fuel storage tank, pump water with a portable container. Same product saver. The tank of the configure with a pump fuel, external high-level switch to the chambers, and external high-level shut-off valve, floating chamber. The facility testing those devices. Inspection, maintenance, product saver tank. The inspection of the product saver tanks ensure that all the valves are working properly. Slightly level the site the level of the gauge density of all of the working properly, not broken. The hand pump with electrical pumps working properly or not broken, leaking. 8911 side stream filtration systems. Side stream filtration systems use the filter to polish of the fuel storage tanks, typically with a system consisting of a 100-gallon per minute pump. The draw fuel with the tank low with the suction line extended with the center of the pump. The pump fuel through about 100 gallons per minute. The filter separated with the tank fills line with the connection. Sometimes provide the downstream of the filter separate with the pump of the fuel of the tank truck with the browser filter separated with the polish of with the fuel. They also remove the water from the bottom of the tank of the filter separator, equipped with the water level conductancy probe, a flow control pilot. As you shove the filter separator control valve as to much water is present, filter separator pump in the case of the product recovery should be first utilize to draw as much water over the tank bottom as possible before sliding the side stream of the filter operation is continued. Inspection and maintenance side stream filterization system, check filters, separated vertical vent tanks that typically 5 gallons monthly. Refer to 661 piping testing inspection for the inspection maintenance for the requirements of piping. Refer to 361 basket strainer inspection maintenance requirements of basket strainers. Refer to 38 for pumps. 362 for filter separators. 4422 filter separator control valves. 916 grounding systems. 919 electrical equipment. Are your fill ports or either the product of the tank fuel receive the valve vapor balance for the connection point for the typically installed with the underground above ground horizontal tank of the fill ports can be installed with the pit installed with the tank with the underground storage tank or on the stand installed with a close proximity to the tank of the above ground storage tank. They also provide a small volume of the containment below the receipt of the receipt connection points, and some of the cost of the fuel is equipped with a small pump with a valve that can be used for the transfer of the fuel for the collect of the fuel fill port with the containment area with the receipt line with the respective tank. Inspection maintenance of the fill ports. Ensure the fill ports are installed with them not damaged or broken. Ensure the fill ports are covered with the identified fuel type with the installed with the correct tank. Visually inspect the fill port spill bucket to ensure that there are no cracks, budges, or holes. Ensure the spill bucket to clean the dirt from the trash, water, or fuel frequency daily. Inspect the drain of the spill bucket and ensure the good condition. Ensure the cap is installed with the receipt connection proper and vapor type are not broken and chipped. Then ensure the poppet valve of the vapor recovery port seals tightly, no vapor is exposing the tank of the valve is closed. Frequency monthly. Ensure the secondary containment area with the fill port with the fuel type with the ensure the manual transfer pump with the drain valve is operational and only. Release detection minor release detection is an issue installed with above ground, underground petroleum fuel storage tank. Release detection measure vary based on the age and the type of the tank. In addition, the Title 40 CFR Part 280 technical standard corrective action requirements that owners and operatives of the underground storage tank, host nation, state, local regulations may have additional design inspection if the requirements may be more stringent. The Department of Defense federal guidance facility operators must be more familiar with the spill prevention containment countermeasure plan in order to comply with inspection record keeping. Alright, 8, 9, 13, 1, point sensor dry. Dry sensors install the lowest point of the space between the fueling of the system. Secondary barrier dry point sensors send a signal monitoring panel indicating if the liquid detection. Dry point sensors include flow switches, electrical resistor switches. Licensed or certified technicians are required to troubleshoot or inspect dry point sensors for the operation. Underground and above ground double the wall tanks such as the product recovery tank would often have point sensors installed with the connection on the top of the tank of the extent of the down of the near the bottom of the internal space between the primary and secondary tank of the shell of the sensor that is used to determine the primary tank is leaking into the interstellar space between the shell of the underground linking with the internal space. Interaxial space of the point sensor is in continuous surveillance type provides audible visual alarm operator control panel. Inspection maintenance point sensor drag. Ensure the monitoring panel associated with the point sensor is powered and on and no alarms are present daily. Ensure the monitoring space is clear, free of debris and liquid. Monthly testing sensor ensure functionality annually. Point sensor wet. Wet sensors are installed with liquid reservoir monitors. Liquid filled space between primary tank and secondary tank. Underground storage tanks only. Licensed and uncertified tanks are required to troubleshoot and inspect wet point sensors. Operator inspection maintenance point sensor wet. Ensure that the monitoring panel is associated with wet point sensor power with on or no alarms present daily. Ensure level of monitoring fluid is normal range monthly. And ensure the testing ensuring functional annual frequency annually. Your point sensor pressure vacuum point sensors installed at the point of the space between the fueling system secondary barrier. The space is usually under pressure vacuum depending on the configuration. Pressure vacuum point sensors send a signal to the monitoring panel. Include loss of pressure loss vacuum. License of the certified technician is required to troubleshoot and inspect the pressure vacuum point sensor for operation. Inspection maintenance of point sensor pressure vacuum. Ensure the point monitoring panel associated with the pressure vacuum point sensor powered on or no alarms present daily. This vacuum sensor of the proper operation annually. Your visual leak detection system include the use of telltale holes, leak detection ports, reinforcement plate, tell holes, present reinforcement plates with a seal the storage tank over the connection points, appurtency connection points. Telltale holes allow the leaks of the interstitial space between the reinforcement plate with the tank shovel to be seen through the visual inspection. Leaking through the telltale hole. Never install plugs in the reinforcement plate with the telltale holes. Leak detection ports and telltales are present with the storage tanks. Storage and ring wall foundation located around the perimeter ring wall foundations of the single collection point. Leak detection ports are manually open in inspection for leaks. Our inspection maintenance visual leak detection. Visual inspection leak detection ports. Telltale signs for the signs of leaks if they are debris in the obstructing view and the apparatus measure to be taken to remove the debris with the remedy with the construction. Frequency during the routine inspection of other components of the monthly, whichever comes first. Visually inspect the reinforcement plate. Telltale holes with the signs of a leak. Ensure the telltale holes have not been plugged with the debris of the cap, pack, and reinforcement plate. Telltale with the grease and prevent the insect nesting or building up of the debris quarterly. Alright, floating suction lines. Floating suction lines give the whole petroleum with the predetermined level below the petroleum liquid. Serve with the suction line. Typically suspended with the platoon type of flow with the cable system connected with the suction arm. Move the visually targeted external of the tank with a visual confirmation of the arm is moving properly. Inspection of the maintenance of the floating suction line. Check with the external floating suction line position indicator to ensure the floating suction line is moved freely. Level in tank rises, falls, frequency quarterly. Inspection cable of the floating floats and swing joints. The exterior internal floats have not been collected fuel. Ensure cable that is securely fastened. The anchor points are in good work condition. Ensure the suction point flanges are used to support the swing joint. Leveled and true with the swing joint moves and freely up and down with the does not bind. Frequency when the tank is taken out of service. Internal cleaning of the inspection. 8915 film fire protection system. Aqueous film forming foam system sometimes installed with the petroleum fuel storage as when equipped with the aqueous film forming foam spray nozzles installed at the top of the tank and then activated spray to foam interior vapor space of the tank. Foam is sprayed with the form of the aqueous film floats at the top of the petroleum fuel and separated the petroleum fuel from the atmospheric oxygen. 8915-1 inspection maintenance foam fire protection system referred to UFC 3601 operation maintenance inspection testing maintenance fire protection system inspection maintenance requirements of tank foam fire protection system. Alright, 8916 heating coils from petroleum storage tanks that heat fuel. Lube oils for the equipped with the heating level coil for the heater warms the petroleum, lower the viscosity for the transfer operation coil that may be present in storage tanks. Other types of tanks petroleum with cold climates. Steam type of heating steams are very effective means the high heating at high level of petroleum fuel. Low oils steams coils typically inserted at the bottom of the tanks can be verified at different configuration. Internal corrosion of the coil due to presence of the condensation of the heater coil of the tubes is a primary problem and sometime into the system. Depending on the type of the heater, the corrosion can lead to oil or steam heating with the water petroleum to avoid corrosion. Steam coils must be shut off the tank connections when not in use. Active the coil must be plugged and remove the tank of the flow of the steam. Heating coil is typically controlled by the automatic temperature regulating valve, preventing overheating of the tank. Inspection maintenance steam type of heating coil. Observe the regulating valve. Check with the against the thermometer to determine the control of the tank temperature for the safe range, usually not over 150 degrees. And number 6, burner fuel oil steam traps must be inspected. The proper operation ensure the condensation evacuated from the steam coil each operation. Pressure check. Check heating coils for 10% above the normal operating pressure annually. Steam coils must be cleaned. Inspect the visible signs of corrosion. Wherever the tank is empty, cleaning with inspection all components of the steam heating coil such as well joints, support points, valve, the temperature well, the control valve, steam traps must be inspected with a check for the proper operation visible. Wherever the damage of the coil may be carefully pressurized, steam visually checked for leaks. If necessary, leak with the damage must be repaired frequently with the tank of the town from a normal inspection sooner with the same heating coil damage is suspected. Or your thermal fluid type heating coil. Thermal fluid sometimes installed instead of steam in the tank heating coil. The heavy lube with the oil, the other fuel oil, the fluids do not pose with corrosion problems associated with the steam condensation, but do not require the maintenance power of the proper operation. The thermal heating coils are typically installed at the bottom of the tank and can be verifying configuration flow of the thermal fluid. A heating coil is typically controlled with the automatic temperature regulating valve, preventing overheating of the fuel over oil in the tank. Inspection maintenance of the thermal fluid is the type of the heating coil with the preserve of the regulating valve. Check with the gauge of the thermometer to measure the control of the tank temperature with the self range of the external, usually not over 150 degrees. The number 6 of burner fuel oil. All external valve fittings or other components must be inspected with a visible sign of the leak during operation. Each operation pressure check with the heating coil at 10% of the normal operating pressure. When tanks are empty with the air cleaned, inspection heating coils must be cleaned and inspect the visible sign of the corrosion wherever the damage of the coils have been pressurized. Check with the leaks at the time of the thermal heating of the normal operating pressure, but the ambient temperature of the elevate. The possible burns of the personnel leaks must be repaired frequently. The tank is down with a formal internal inspection soon when the thermal heating coil damage is suspected. Electric rod type heating. Electric rod type heaters sometimes use the heat liquids directly. They are inserted inside into sealed pipes and extended into the tanks and directly heat fluid. They are electrical heaters controlled with a thermostat conjunction with a thermometer with a visual check with a regulator with a heat tank with an internal and electric heater on and off as required. 8, 9, 16, 31, inspection maintenance, electric rod type heating, and refer to manufacturer operation maintenance manual, additional maintenance requirements, inspect heat if it ensure the non-fluid leakage of the heater tank of the connection with the heater from properly formed at each operation. Your stilling wells. Stilling wells are used to minimize movement of the level of the temperature, sensing probe of the flows of the petroleum fuel tank. Still wells are constructed with a vertical pipe in or slide with a hole to ensure the level of the fuel in the still well matches the level of the petroleum fuel in the tank. Inspection maintenance still wells. Stilling wells must be visually inspected vertically straight, free with the depends on indentations. Sometimes tank still wells are not bare carbon steel pipe. In these instances, still wells must be replaced with aluminum at the time of the outer surface inspection. Inspection floating seals installed with the sealing wells to ensure they're not worn or sealing inside of the still welling property at the time of the outer surface internal inspection. Her contamination system. Petroleum storage has various types of the secondary containment that protect the surrounding area of the petroleum contamination. Secondary contamination system include metals enclosure, during areas returning impound system. Secondary containment system can be found made of metal, concrete liner, brick, and earthen material equipped with the impervious liner. Military stuff the typical sign of the drain containment area. Various organizations in all cases for the removal of the water conducted in accordance with the installation of the spill prevention containment countermeasure. On stormwater prevention plan, administer the only water stream of the replaced secondary containment area that must be drained based on local requirements monthly, whichever comes first. Inspection maintenance containment system generally. Inspect the containment system to cleanliness, accessible daily. Secondary containment system degrade with the collectible like debris which can be clogged during inlets to prevent the drain valve of the sealing properly. Test drain with the valve leakage through the valve frequency annually. Concrete, cement, brick, dike, and berms and floors. Above ground petroleum tanks contamination system constructed with the concrete center block maintained with the inspector to ensure the contamination system integrity. 8.10.2.1 inspection made with the concrete, cement, brick, and dike berm. Investigation of the vegetation of the seal of the cracks. All vegetation must be removed and indicate for the penetration of the seal of the cracks of concrete daily. Inspect walls constructed with a brick with a sign of deterioration, small and cause of the freeze thaws with the condition causes cracks, joint cracks between the bricks. Walls constructed with the bricks must be patched immediately to prevent further penetration of wall structure daily. Inspect the walls constructed with a concrete sign of deterioration, small and cover the freeze thaw condition cracks and clean seals cracks within the fuel resistant sealant semi-annually. Inspect the seal joints of the concrete joints. Seal with the retract of the joint become unbounded. The joints must be removed and replaced fuel-resistant semi-annually. Alright, inspection of dike and berms. Inspection investigate vegetation from the tank of the root and seals and cracks daily. Inspect floor of the concrete signs of deterioration, clean and seal cracks with a fuel-resistant sealant semi-annually. Inspect joints and seal joints. Seal the retractor of the joint. When they become unbounded, joints must be removed and placed in fuel-resistant semi-annually. Alright, earth, dike, and walls. Earth, dike, and walls, secondary containment system typically includes sloped walls with a level surface at the top. The inspection made with the earth, dike, and wall. The inspection vegetation has taken root. All vegetation must be removed in all cases daily. Prevent root or earth vegetation inside of the contamination area. Fireproof the sterilization herbicides above the approved by the Installation Environmental Office must be used monthly, and inspect the signs of the erosion. Inspection should be performed periodically after the heavy rains and storm. Repair areas that deteriorated due to erosion quarterly. Alright, 8.10.4. Self-decking vaulted tank containment. The tank must be either self-decking vaulted. Secondary containment features must meet with the National Fire Protection Association 30 Flammable Combustible Liquid Code. In the case of the tank of the dispensing vehicle, the watercraft of the tank must meet the requirements detailed in the National Fire Protection Association 30A code for the motor fuel dispensing fuel facility and repairs. Additional requirements of the National Fire Protection Association 1, Chapter 20, motor fuel dispensing station, public-private operators, National Fire Protection Association 1, Chapter 66, flammable combustible liquids, and UL 2085. Standard protected above ground flammable combustible liquids. Inspection, maintenance, self-decking, vaulted tank, and contamination. Secondary contamination structure, self-decking, vaulted tanks must be inspected visually with integrity of the breach of special intention, given the pipe of the penetration, interstitial or drain volumes, frequency, daily. Flexible membrane liners, or FMLs, sometimes installed under concrete storage tanks, secondary containments by either in dikes and used in secondary containment. Typical flexible membrane liners are installed over geotextile membranes. Flexible membrane liners is brought up and sealed with a concrete tank foundation or inside the secondary contamination area, concrete wall, dike areas include the perimeter secondary contamination pipe penetration with the secondary contaminant. Asian areas such as piers and ports are also sealed with the flexible membrane liners, preventing product from seeping through and on liner along the pipe. Inspection of flexible membrane liners. Remove the vegetation, grow over the gravel, the dirt, taking over the roots that have penetrated the flexible membrane liner. Visible inspection. Flexible membrane liners attached ring wall, dike walls, concrete piers, other projection with the projection deterioration due to weather, wear, and repair is necessary. Quarterly visual inspect flexible membrane liners covered with smooth rock gravel, the bare spot where the gravel was washed away due to the storm and the heavy rain with the tear of the gravels or for tears. Replace gravel taking with the care for the knot, the puncture of the liner. Quarterly visually inspect the flexible membrane liner for the tears or punctures of the repair. 8.10.6. Pipe penetration. Some pipe penetration containment wall that incorporated the pipe sleeve with wedging the carrier of the pipe is played with the carrier pipe is sealed with the pipe sleeve with the linking type with the mechanical compression seal with the both ends. Boot seals over the end of the pipe seal sleeve with the carrier pipe is sometimes added with additional containment with the measure. In some cases, the carrier pipe directly penetrated the concrete containing paving of the wall, but in this case, the space of the carrier pipe with the concrete paving wall is sealed with the fuel-resistant sealant. Inspection made with the pipe penetration. Inspection of the boots and mechanical link type seal with the wears and cracking. Ensure the seal with a good working order. Seal out the water retaining of the petroleum product intended. Replace and repair the defective boot with linkage seals quarterly. Inspect the sealing between the pipes and concrete walls, berms, and floors. Sealant and has retracted concrete pipe surfaces must be removed to replace new fuel-resistant sealing. Alright, miscellaneous use tanks. Miscellaneous use tanks include electrical generator types, fire pump tanks, waste oil tanks, ballast water tanks, volute oil tanks, others. In most cases, standalone tanks are below 10,000 gallon capacity, full in shop fabricated category, and are designed to be built with the UL 142, UL 2080, and UL 2085. Standards. However, in some cases, the tanks are large erected fabricated fall and is vertical or cut over category. In some cases, the tanks are integrated with the system and are built with skid manufacturers. The others generate fire belly pump. Station above ground tanks fall into the vertical erected category that must follow the inspection maintenance requirements of Section 8.4. Field erected tanks, standalone tanks fall into the shop fabricated categories must be inspection maintenance requirement at 8.5. Fabricated tanks, standalone tanks are follow the cut and cover category must follow the inspection maintenance requirements of Section 8.6. Underground field constructed tanks. Integrated tanks are supplied with the parts, equipment, skids, and systems must be follow the manufacturer inspection maintenance requirements. Generator tanks and fire pump tanks. The tanks are typically hold diesel and kerosene base fuel with the piston-driven engines operating electrical generator and fire water. Article 8.11.1.3 Waste oil tanks. Waste oil tanks store petroleum product that is non-suitable for the use of the reclamation. Product that typically store for the appropriate quantity accumulated with the economic sale and the disposal of the oil tank stays with many of the type of the configuration and integrity testing many of the considered petroleum tanks. Ballast water tanks, vital wash tanks, used to store water, fuel tanks, mixture between the marine vessel and tanks. Lube oil tanks are used to store, distribute oil, turbine, gas, gears, and hydraulic equipment gear, general mechanical lubrication. Additive tanks are store bulk additives. Use the additives jet fuel. Use additives jet fuel. They're typically small above ground tanks. 8.11.1.7 The heating oil tanks. Tanks are included with the heating coil, which are used to preheat the oil before it can be used. These tanks must be field erected, shop fabricated, cut and cover. 8.11.1.7.1 Inspection maintenance heating oil cover the 8.9.6 heating coils. Inspection maintenance requirements of heating coils. Chapter 9 Electrical systems.